Hey everybody, this is Scott Bowman, the creator behind Idea Brickworks, and we are back with another Studio for Dummies episode 15. Again, we have a esteemed panel of users of Studio, and we're going to try and answer some of your questions. The response to last week's show was great. We did go a little earlier. Sorry, I know some people on the East Coast are probably just having their coffee and hopefully joining us. But their response was very, very good, and that I think people do want to know more about Studio and how to use this to enhance what we do in our hobby. So today, though, we did go a little earlier because we wanted to make sure Peter was on. Peter has work he does, so he needs to leave at 11. And so I wanted to make sure, because he is really a undiscovered talent as far as knowing how to do animations and renderings and parts and stickers and all sorts of things. And a lot of that I've learned from. I think every time I've got Peter on the show, I learn something new. So there are a few other things that we'll show in between. I'm going to show a little bit about how to do a set up instructions. Mr. Chambers went through some of the basics of instructions last time, but I'm going to get a little more into the weeds. And then also styles. It's something I use quite a bit because I do everything from the small brick Idahos on 8.5 by 11 all the way up to STEM Moonshot, which is on 11 by 17 pages. So I kind of run the gamut, and I need to have a quick way to go in between all those. As always, we want to hear your comments. We want to see what your questions are and if we can get those answered. So please get in the chat and let us know. Hopefully we'll have some others join us. Mr. B has some work that he's doing, and then also if he doesn't have homework, he may be joining us later. Also, I heard from Sebastian, and Sebastian has to make sure his kids are in bed, so he may be joining us later. So again, I always send out an email to all our past guests, anybody that would like to join. So if you're lurking out there in the bushes, come and join us, and we'll bring you into the fun. So with that, I'm going to kind of let Peter, since he's kind of the star of this particular episode, I'll let him start. And I thought, I guess, what would you like to start with, Peter? Do you want to start with the rendering, maybe? Looked like you had the lighting question, which Sebastian asked this one. He asked the question related to how does the lighting work when you're doing renderings? But maybe if you could go through just what some of those options are in rendering and what those kinds of things are, that would be a great way to start.
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
Oh, Sam says hi. Sam Bradford, Mr. B.
Hello, Sam. There we go, PT. Your screen is on. I'm finally doing that thing that Sam really wanted me to do the other week, and I'm putting together my LUT. So,
so here I have a model up from yesteryear. Some of you might remember the Holy Grail of space monorails.
Hey, have you heard if they're going to come out with more monorail parts? Do you think another monorail? Anyway, sorry. That's a...
Oh, no.
If you know Kevin Hinkle, that's the question.
Oh, that's the question he gets a lot. Okay.
Right.
I'll ask him next time I talk to him now.
Absolutely do.
Yes. So anyway, we can go over some rendering settings. Hold on a second. I'm going to close some of my bigger models.
Show off.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, just go to render images and just go through these settings, which are somewhat important. So this just pay attention to photoreal at the moment. And basically the first image we have is render quality. And this basically comes down to how good do you want your still image to look like? Do you want it to look like it was taken on a cell phone or a high grade camera? And vice versa. So basically, if you go through here, I have a custom setting where I'm using 256 samples. The lower the samples, the lower your image quality is going to be. So it's recommending 128 for at medium, 256 for high, and very high is 512. And all that's really going to do is just increase or decrease your rendering time and the overall quality of the photo. What I recommend before you go and try to make the highest quality image you want to do is you can set that sample down to 10 if you want to, and then come down here for image size and choose 1080 by 1080 or even 640 by 480, which is the smallest amount of pixels. And that will give you a relatively quick render so you can check out your lighting, how the shadows are affecting everything, and if you want to realign your part before you do a multi-hour render on your laptop and then it was all for nothing. So we'll come back to that. We'll actually do it. We'll see how long this takes to render.
Did you just put down to 1?
Yeah, just to see what happens.
This is the man who lives on the edge.
1 pixel.
So I'm doing this because I have somewhat of a high capacity machine, so I expect this to be done in about 5 seconds.
Yep.
Yeah. So as you can see, with the quality of 1, it looks out of focus. It looks very low res. It probably looks like a cell phone that I took a picture with in 2004.
An iPhone 3.
Now you're saying that cell phones are low quality. I think the highest quality camera I have is my cell phone.
Today.
Hey, it's a Galaxy Note 10. It's a good camera.
We can't be friends.
Yeah, well, okay, I should give a little bit of my background. During the week, I'm a freelance photographer, so I have a little bit higher standard when it comes to imaging. I almost never use my cell phone unless to just take a snapshot at the grocery store and be like, is this what you wanted?
Exactly.
So I'm going to go ahead and switch it back to very high, which is 512, but I'm still going to keep that resolution low. And you're just going to see how quickly I can generate a good looking preview. I expect this to take about maybe 20 seconds for me.
Yeah, my work computer is so much faster at rendering.
Do you have a desktop at work?
No, I have a laptop. It just has a dedicated graphics processor.
You can't add graphics processors to a laptop, can you?
Not to my knowledge.
No, it has to come with it as far as I know.
So I'm going to just let this go in the background, but you can see already we have a drastically increased quality. However, it's still somewhat pixelated because we're at the lowest settings. But this is quickly giving us an idea of what the lighting's looking like. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel this.
Well, and also that has a lot of trans parts.
Yeah, that's another thing. Thank you for bringing that up. My computer somewhat failed at rendering a video for Ship in the Bottle because of all the trans bottle pieces and then all the trans water pieces. I tried to do a 4K version and it was just taking my machine too long, and I just settled for doing a 1080p version for that video. Because most of the videos I like to produce are at 4K, but I settled for 1080 just because it was a 4 times reduction in resolution and time. So It's got a next section for background and light, and since we have a photograph, we have the option of having a solid color background or a transparent background. The transparent background is not available for video because just because you can't have a transparent video.
So, Peter,
Yeah.
just to sort of tie this into a big question that's been asked on in the comments here, is this the sort of process you would go through using a transparent background to create a cover for your instructions, sort of thing? You're creating instructions for yourself.
If you want to create something more artistic and do your background replacement, that's when you would want to have a transparent background.
That is what I do, and then I export it into I use Microsoft Visio because that's what I've been using for years. But it's easy to put it into like Photoshop or
into an editor of your choice.
Right.
Editor of your choice.
But I do that with all my both my renderings and the instructions too. I use the PNG so that there's no background.
Cool. Thank you. Sorry, Peter.
Yeah, no worries. And essentially, since we have all these clear pieces, if we did a solid color background, it was really funky, like pink, and you decide to remove the background later to do some artwork, you're going to have that pink glow in all your trans pieces.
Really?
And also,
that's a very good point, yeah.
because it's going to be hard to remove that pink.
Like old green screen.
And depending on how the lighting's hitting certain objects, you're also going to get a green highlight or a pink highlight on your pieces.
Interesting.
So don't act like I can remove the background later in Photoshop. Take care of it now. And this was a question that I saw popped up last week. I wasn't able to join, but I was able to listen to a majority of it. I've been studying the lighting. I haven't found documentation on this. Most of this is just me just going through it and figure out what's working. And under light, you have two choices, building and mechanic. And what I've been able to figure out is I think what they're really trying to describe is natural ambient light and then studio light. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So
Wait, you only have two choices?
Do you have more than two?
I have several more than two.
Ooh.
When was the last time you've updated?
I do too.
A couple days ago.
What do you have?
I have building, mechanic, asteroid, dawn, and pizza. Or
Piazza.
Pizza.
I wonder why I don't have all the options.
Oh.
Well, I will go through the two that I have because
Yes, please.
those sound ridiculous.
And I'm not seeing floor shadow come up on yours. Did you?
I wonder if it's a
maybe it's something to do with the quality is selected. You only get the certain lighting options or even down to the resolution, yeah.
Maybe hit a pre...
Yeah, because, and the only reason I was talking about floor shadow is if you intend to if you have a transparent background and you intend to put the rendering like in a much larger vignette, don't have the floor shadow on because the floor shadow stops at the boundary of your image.
Or if you're rendering a spacecraft.
There is no floor, right? So
Peter, go to the photo reel where it says default setting, go back up, change that default setting there on the background and light to high res. I have an option in mine that says high res, and that gives me all the extra options for the lighting.
Where's this at?
That drop down box you're at now. I have one in my one. I have one that says high res, which then gives me all the options for.
It's coming up now.
And if you go to light, you can then drop it down to all these additional crazy options that are being mentioned.
Yep, there we go. Interesting.
See,
Well-
folks, we even learn while we are on the show.
I have to figure out why those weren't originally showing, because they should have been. But anyway, but yeah, as Scott said, you can turn your floor shadow on and off. I usually keep mine on just to give the sense that it's a photograph. And when I am making thumbnails with them, in Photoshop, I delete the shadows so I don't have to run with that problem of repositioning and having the shadow end at the end of the original frame. So back to so I ran a series of tests on a single brick. And this first test I ran, I used the building light, and I had the X and Y values at 0 and the intensity at 1. The next test, I switched from the building light to the mechanical light.
Interesting.
So what we can see here is the main difference, other than intensity, is our shadows are not as soft as they are in the first one. They're more harsh and they're darker. So this leads me to believe, instead of using like a nice sunny day with some overcast, having some nice even light with soft shadows, that you would be using a very directed studio light with barn doors. And we're getting harsher shadows on this. So you can change basically the conditions if you want more of a lifestyle feel, or do you want like a harsher, grittier feel. And then the next test, I set the intensity to 0, which basically decreased the exposure of the image. It was basically lowering the light.
Where, I'm sorry, where are you looking at intensity? Oh, there it is. Okay. Never mind. I got you.
Rotation. So, and the next thing is left front, right front, left rear. That's basically if you're going to light the image in the front, like here, versus lighting it in the back.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
And
is there any way to preview where the light is coming from on your little preview screen? Or
no, that's why I recommend doing the test render. So basically, and then the last settings, the X and Y rotation, basically raises and lowers your light and rotates it around the image. So so here I have, that's left rear and right rear being lit. And then here, this test, I have 0 on the x-axis and -10 on the y. This is -10 on the x, 10 on the y. And basically, all that's going to do is just you change your elevation angle of your light. And
negative is up.
Either reflection up top of like basically where the light source is coming from.
And negative is going up.
I need to double check and make sure. Let me see. Let me find my negative one. Did I do a negative one? So test 12 is -10 on the x, 0 on the y.
And the shadows are shorter, so yeah, it's going up.
And
that's the way it is in the model too.
Okay.
Negative goes up, which is kind of weird.
So this test is -10 on the x and +10 on the y. And then this one's 0 on x and -10 on y. So this might be a good time to bring this up, but I'm going to make a full test gamut of these and make like a short video with annotation, just so
Cool.
it's easier to see what's going on.
Now you can add asteroid and piazza.
Yeah. I need to figure out what they were thinking. Because I mean, I'm fine with cool names if you have documentation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's go ahead and continue.
So it looks like we need to make some documentation.
That's another thing I was going to bring up. I don't know if now's a good time, Scott. I'm in the pre-production phases of creating a video tutorial series for Studio. So I'm hoping to have short 3 to 5 minute videos on each subject to give a beginner how to get started, and then move into advanced features and just have dedicated videos on those topics.
I think that will be outstanding, and I know a lot of people who are going to love it.
So I do have an outline that I want to share with you guys and get your feedback. And I definitely want to talk to you guys about Instruction Maker, because I haven't dealt with that at all, but I feel like it should be covered for inclusion.
I'd love to help you with that.
Sure.
And
Love to.
yeah, and I just think it'll just be a great resource. Try to make it as not as I'll make it specific to a point, but try to make it so it's not release dependent.
And where might you be posting these?
This will be on my YouTube channel, Spacetime Brick Studio. I almost said Space Brick.
Well, and here's Instagram. But,
Okay.
You
Yeah,
mean this one, Scott?
there you go.
you got it. There you go.
So I'm hoping to launch this in January once we get because I don't want to make one video and release it. I kind of want to make them all and then release them a couple days from each other so people can follow along. And then it'll just be a permanent learning resource.
Yeah,
And
I think that'll be outstanding, mate. That's a good idea. And people in the comments are saying, please do that. It's really helpful.
okay. And another topic we'll be covering today that's definitely going to be in this video is making custom minifigures. And I'm trying to find a place that's a good place to, because I have these templates I have in Photoshop I want to build and use. Because right now I have basic ones, but I want to make them better so they're more accessible to people. And we'll show that once we get done with the rendering. And as you can see here, with my camera set up, you can, I'm getting ahead of myself, but so you can set up your shot and they have these built-in rotations. But most of the time, if you want something that's completely straight on, you're going to do what they're doing. But mostly you just right click and hold to do a rotation, and then left click and hold to move it. And then you can fine tune your X and Y rotation, and then your X and Y position. Use the scroll wheel to adjust the zoom. And then field of view is good to keep at about 15. We can see what the drastic differences are. So at a field of view of 1, it's basically limiting the amount that you can see in the frame. So it's once again, I wish they were using units or had units here, because I would equate this to being a prime lens of some sort with a fixed zoom limit. And then we can go the other direction and make this 100. And you can see how we have this change in perspective. Ooh. So it's kind of weird. I'm still trying to figure out what I think it's what it's doing at its maximum viewpoint. It's saying that the field of view is 100 degrees. But anyway, for most of yours creations, try to keep it at around 15 seems to be good. if you reach a limit because your model's too big, you need to make that number bigger.
Another aha moment for Scott, because I am in the process of putting STEM Moonshot into one file. So at some point, I'll let it render for a week or send it to my friend who has a powerful computer to render it in 10 minutes.
You must be absolutely nuts to try and put that in one file.
It's madness.
I'm up to the transition to stage 2. So, and it's still feasible, but I cannot move stuff without just doing it manually. I do it with position and connect.
So, and what I was mentioning before, you can save this camera angle, and it's useful for me because I'm going to go ahead and just save this, come up with lighting test 2. So I like having the ability to save exactly where my camera was at, except so I don't have to write down all these numbers, because some of my videos, I tweak something in it so I can do an animation. So I would go ahead and add this frame to my rendering queue. I would close this, make an adjustment here, either moving the train or moving something that bends just ever so slightly. And then I go back to render again. And then I keep that camera angle the same, but only one small part of the image is moved. And I just repeat my process. And that's how I can create a custom animation that Studio's not capable of doing. Studio's able
that's akin to stop motion, basically.
Exactly. So that's I know for sure. Let me just bring up a quick example.
Drum roll.
Well, that wasn't positive.
So watch after rotation.
How you did that one was just render individual pictures.
Yeah, just for the raising of the bed and dumping the rocks out. And then I'll show you how I did the rest of it, because I didn't do it for every frame of that video. Before we go into video, just last 2 settings. I think I skipped over this. Basically selecting here for your device settings if you want to render with your GPU or CPU. Most people's cases, their GPU is going to be the faster option. But if your GPU is pretty weak, you can try the processor. And essentially, you want to test and see which one's faster. Do 2 parallel tests, or not parallel, serial with parallel settings. Just like the lowest resolution possible, and just time it and see which one's quicker for you.
Now, even laptops, do they actually have independent GPUs? Graphic processing units?
So I want to.
A lot of them do, but you can't change them out. Like they're integrated into the motherboard.
Oh, okay.
Right, and I think we've had a similar discussion before. Yeah. Basically, every computer has a graphics card, whether it's integrated to the motherboard for just basic operations, or some gaming laptops will have a dedicated card, but it's still much more integrated than it is on a PC build.
So, Peter, just before we move on, Kyle Sezowicz is watching.
Hey, Kyle.
And he would like to know, when you're doing your animations and things that you just showed us there, what video editing software are you using to string that all together?
So for me, I use Adobe Premiere. And I know it's not the most accessible program for people just starting out because Adobe Premiere is a part of Adobe Cloud, which is a $50 per month subscription. I am making videos weekly for YouTube. I photograph clients during the week. So I'm using all the nice programs that Adobe offers. So it makes sense for me to spend $50 a month. I would recommend, I know it's not currently available with current versions of Windows, but I think you can go back and download Windows Movie Maker and you'll be able to bring that together. If you're on a Mac, is iMovie still free?
iMovie's still free, yeah. Very good, very powerful piece of kit.
And I do know there are some, you can look for free video editors online. I can't speak to how good they are because I'm an Adobe person, so my whole entire workflow just goes through Adobe. So I hope that helps you.
Well, and again,
if you're a student, you can
some of us use Affinity. I don't know if they do video stuff, but it's a less expensive version of a publisher. So I just could not justify Adobe, but I looked, and I'm slowly getting to know Photo and their photo version and their publisher. But
so, and one last setting we have in Photos is material effects. And I will admit I have never used this, but I plan to be using it for the tutorial videos I'm going to be designing.
it's actually, you don't leave your stud logos. That's always on for mine.
And I've been debating on whether turning that on or off just to see how it deals with render times. So that's a test I want to run. But basically, you can put the Lego logo on every stud you have in your project. You can degrade UV degradation of your bricks if you want. You can add scratches to your bricks if you want. How it calculates and how random it is, I don't know. So that's something I'm going to play with when I'm making the render portion of the tutorials. So if photorealistic is not working for you, they do have a POV ray, which is not as realistic as photos, but it's I want to equate it to a little bit better than what you would see in a Lego instruction manual. Let me go ahead. I'll go ahead and render one of these, and I'll go on and talk about video while we're waiting for it, just to give you an example of what it looks like.
One of the things that Pavre goes back a ways. And in fact, I still think that is the engine behind all the rendering in Studio is Pavre, which is not Lego specific as I understand it. I think it has more to do with overall rendering material, at least as I understand it, because I had to do that the first time I had to render the STEM moonshot. I had to do it using the LDD file, took it to LDRAW, and then used Pavre, which had a connection, and it was very confusing. And it wasn't until I finally got it to 300 dots per inch that I quit. But
so, keep in mind, I did this at the lowest resolution. I mean, it's still acceptable to get your point across if you're presenting this as a preliminary design to someone. Just to give someone an idea of what this is going to look like without putting a lot of hardship on your GPU. And as you can see, it's still calculating some of the refraction through here.
Yep.
And I would say the only critique here is this trans red brick doesn't look all that great.
No, it doesn't.
So that's looks like what's going to be your trade-off for that. And I don't know why I'm picking on this one, but this blue brick's not that great either. So just to give you options of what you can be happy with. And honestly, finding new features and finding what works for you just involves playing with the program. and let's move on to animation.
If you want to, I just really quickly did the same single brick render of those three other viewpoints that you don't have.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to see them, or
Eventually, yeah. If Scott wants to, that's fine.
Yeah, why don't we wait on that one? Hey, before you go into animation, why don't I'll let your vocal cords take a break.
Okay, I'm gonna go get some water.
There you go. And I thought I would answer another question, so let me bring mine up. So I am not going to murder your name, but you're asking a question, and there's actually two fields of thought here. One is Mr. Chambers uses the instruction side of the instruction maker, and he does an awful lot of his development there, and kind of his final mode. I probably go the other way in that I get my steps done in the instruction maker to the point where I can then export PNG files. Then I put things together in a Fit-ND publisher. And that kind of answered your question, because to me, the instruction maker doesn't give me enough options for certain things I want to do. So like you said, to get that picture of the full model at the beginning, and let me show you a little bit what I mean. So this is the soon to be released, as soon as we get the stickers done, my shuttle model, and this happens to be the a review version of Discovery. So I'm going to give some feedback to Peter on the sticker set. But what you see here, though, is I made a model that actually is three models. And I'm showing the open version. So it's got the Canada arm, it's got the open bay doors. So I can show that in the instructions, the separate base as I build the instruction set. But then I want to show it on its base, but then I also want to show it with the doors closed. Now, this is going to come up in different places in the instructions. And this is where I can now take this, go to render, and by zooming in on a particular part, I can get the render that I want. Now, you'll notice that those others are showing up, but the nice thing about that is, and I'm going to use my shortcut, which was basically H for hide. Then I can go to render. And with the different options of leaving the floor shadow off, I can go to square. I can make it whatever I'd like to. I can then make this render and pull it in anywhere I want in the final instruction set. So that's how I handle it. Also, you could use that for different segments. So if you are putting together a fairly complex model, like you're talking about your ATRT, that you would want to be able to show the individual part, and maybe you have to render it this way in order to do that in your final instructions. So I tend to feel that the instruction maker is an incredible tool for a piece-by-piece type of set of instructions, but isn't necessarily the end-all to making a good set of instructions that you might offer on Rebrickable or upload to your favorite group or Bricks in Space, or like Joe and I sell them, right? So it's to me, it's a step in the process, but I tell you what, it's a heck of a step, right? It's when I started in this, I'd have to put the steps together and everything else I had to add. So I could barely get an image of the different sets of the brick being put together. Then I had to bring them into instructions. which actually, I don't know if Joe Mino's joined yet, but Joe does that himself. So, and that's where things like the old Blueprint, which was a third party crowdsourced software, came in, where it just started to revolutionize instructions. So I think hopefully I've answered that as a concept. I did want to show an aha moment that happened just last night, in fact, at 11 o'clock at night.
Oh,
so,
no, I don't want to know what.
I'm working, again, this is the version 6, and being not quite as anal as Mr. Chambers, but close. I never liked the transition between the third stage and the service module, where the limb is stored. And because I had to use one brick wide all the way to show the seam of the different panels. This comes apart in 4. And so I played around with a snot technique that is complex as heck, and hopefully it works. I've got the parts on order, but it's basically allowing me to stand up a seam that is in the dead center of that line. And so I've been working on this, and last night I've kind of got a proof of concept for the top and the bottom, but I'm waiting for some brick to come in so I can do that. But during this, I discovered something. So I'm in editing a subassembly at this point, and I was placing a brick, and you place the brick, and then you're either bored with that or you need to do something else. And I would always manually go up and hit escape. And I discovered something, that if you are placing the brick and you're done with it, you just right click and it's done. It excuses it. And it's like, it has made my life so much easier to do that. I also noticed, and another thing I do a lot is I find a brick because I need it somewhere else. And that's the particular one. And maybe I have, like in this case, I needed a white 1x2, not a light blue gray. And so I have a shortcut, and I just hit C. It is now a clone. And so I can place it. And again, I would get to the point where, okay, I'm done with that. I need to hit escape because I want to do something else. Well, turns out if I pull that out and click it a few times, I can hit escape or hit the right click, and it gets rid of it. So I've been playing with what that right click does, because the right click, if it is out in the open, brings up that sub menu, which right now I use a lot for reset origin, and copy. Well, except now I use clone for copy. But this concept of, or my shortcut C I use for cloning. Anyway, I'm playing around with where the right click works to release and allow, so it works like an escape in some places, but others it doesn't. It brings up a submenu. So, did anybody else discover that, or am I just really slow to the table?
I've been using that for a while, because when I've been doing my TARDIS and stuff, there's a lot of repetition in areas of my TARDIS, so I haven't assigned a shortcut to clone. I just use Control C or Command C because I'm on a Mac, which just copies the brick anyway. And then again, I end up using the right click to escape out of it, and because I only want like one piece of it, I don't want like 18 1x2s. Sometimes I do.
Right.
But yeah.
So anyway, that's something I discovered, and The other thing I wanted to do before we continue was to talk a little bit about the setup. So now you've got your parts. You have, I'm going to actually return to the main menu. Now this particular build has 6 sub-assemblies, and then it also has the connectors between the sub-assemblies that hold the whole thing together. And this one's not quite done, but I'm adjusting how that work process goes. But I wanted to show, cancel. Again, this is you have to have everything if you want to save it. Before you do that, the larger the file, I've noticed, the longer it takes to save it.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, we still need to have a music cue for when Scott is waiting for something to happen.
Oh, it happens to you too. It's not just me. Plus, it's my show. Okay, so going into the instructions, again, it's a larger model, so it takes a little while. Especially when I've got streaming going on, and definitely I need to get a new laptop, I think, and spend a little more. Well, I spent like $2,000 on this, so I'm not sure. So again, I'm not going to go too much into the steps. We talked a little bit about that, but I more wanted to talk about page design. So when you go into page design the first time, it's going to load all the defaults, right? So in this mode, the first step, though, as you are starting to think about how you are going to put together your instructions, is to decide what is the end result, right? So are you wanting to be on an 8.5 by 11? Are you trying to do just the steps? I do it a couple of different ways. And in this mode, what I'm going to do, mostly because I need to set one up anyway, is to create a template that then I can now build on. So I go up to page setup, and by page setup, this is talking about what is that area that you are building your instructions on. So regardless of, this would be that final, what is it going to print out as? Now you can use units, inches, centimeters, pixels. I choose pixels, and here's why. I've decided that I am really targeting usually 400 dots per inch to be a little better than 300 dots per inch, which is kind of the absolute minimum for a good print, right? So if you are printing on your at a printer or on your printer, to get a good resolution that looks closer to Lego, but I'm sure Lego is probably a little higher resolution than 300, but 300 has been acceptable for me. It does make fairly big file sizes, but this kind of goes to all the way to the export, and I'll cover that in a minute. But I start with page set. I go to pixels. Now they do have some setups, different sizes. I tend to do custom because I want to do this 400 dots per inch. So here it's just a math. So if I want to do, I'm going to do it portrait. And so I'm going to do a width. If it's 17 inches, that's actually 6,800 pixels. Just 17 times 400. Same with the height would be 4,400. And then margins, in this case, because I'm going to have a fairly large, this is going to be my setup for all all the STEM Moonshot pages are on 11 by 17 because I tend to make them big so that I don't have to, I can show more bricks on a given page. Otherwise, it would be a gazillion pages. It's still going to be a lot of pages, but in this case. So I want a 1/2 inch. So in this case, to get a 1/2 inch, it would be 200. Then I apply it. And obviously I did something wrong with it. It must not have liked it. Why did it not take that?
Yeah, I did not know you could do this. So if I wanted to make instructions that are this size,
Yeah, but it's not letting me do it all of a sudden, which I've done this before. Okay, this is weird. Okay, let's try that. Well, okay, it's being grumpy on me. Almost like it's limiting me, obviously, to 4096. Okay, well, I haven't done it here as much, but the other way you can do this as well, if I was doing instead of the big page version, let's say I'm going to do a step version, that would be, and I can just think about like 3 by 4 inches as a step, then you can do the same kind of math. You can do that same setup. And I will figure out why it's not doing it. Now, you'll notice though, in this as the largest that I seem to be able to do, now you have to go into format and you have 2 choices. You can do that individual format or global style. And I start with global style, and you use that to then set up these different parameters. And what I like to do is to have defaults. So I've got several different selections. I use this all the time, and I'll use my big and fast. So if I wanted to get in and get something out fairly quickly, it now sets the things like the step number. It makes it 60 pixels, but you can also make that, I'll make it 200, or I could make it 400, make it 1 inch tall. And if I'd like to save that, I can now, let's see. Yeah, now it's got that little asterisk next to it. That means I've edited it. So if I want to save it, I can save it back to the big and fast, and now that's going to be there for future things. And I think the preview is, I don't normally use previews, but here we've got a preview model. It's got the fill and the size and color, but in this case, if I click on it, I can now set the scale. So I can go to 200, or I could go to 500. So you can.
I just wish there was a.
What?
I just wish there was a setting for where do you want the step number to show up automatically.
Oh,
'Cause
yes.
I'm
that's
the
true.
weird one who likes it in the lower right-hand corner.
We all know that. And I'm still in therapy about that. But
No, I'm going in therapy about my lost childhood.
So that is one way. Once you get everything adjusted the way you'd like it. Now it doesn't give you default location, like Joe just said. It doesn't put the two in the corner that of your preference, but it does save all the different things that are under the global style, and those things are then saved at the very top, and you can adjust those, save them to whatever you want to as a name. Now you're ready to actually export your instructions, and the way I do it, hit the instructions or the export. In this case, I'm not going to actually do this, but you can select a PDF, and you can get a whatever resolution that you set up, you'll get. So in this case, I will get 300 dots per inch or 400 dots per inch in the PDF format. I pick the PNG, and then you can have a transparent background if you select that box. That way, I've had a case where I would like to highlight a portion of the background of the model with something tan, and kind of like Peter talked about, having that pink background. I didn't get enough control over it. So by having it clear here, I can put just the size of background I want behind just the part that I want to highlight. So it gives me much more control. I have found that if I do anything other than 1x in the size of instructions that I put out, my computer blows up. So it
Really?
totally fails. So that's why I tend to do just the PNG, and then I do the 1x, and I put it into a file, and I'll get a PNG for every single step. Kind of like Joe, you said that. Whereas if you do a PDF, you get one PDF with all the pages in it. It's just how are you going and how are you going to present it. And also the save to, I wish it would self-select to the folder that you opened, but no, it is the last folder that you printed to 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And if
also,
it doesn't exist, it'll still try to print to it.
It'll also only name it in lowercase letters. So every time I save it, I go in there and rename the file before I save it.
You like all capital letters?
No, I like to have the first letter of the word capitalized.
Okay.
I don't. Do they do that in England, Sam? I don't know.
I think there's a list of therapists I can get you.
I'm a fan of camel case.
Of what?
That's what it's called. When you have a string and you capitalize the first letter of each word in the string, it's called camel case.
Okay.
Mind blown. Camel
I'm on a
case.
Camel case. And of course, at work, when I'm working on schematics, everything is capitalized, so I have caps lock on all the time. So when I try to chat with someone else in the company, I'm like, "Hey, Mike, what's up?"
Yes.
You're one of those.
I can remember we had so many debates as we brought CAD into the firm. I basically brought CAD into 3 firms. The only 3 firms I ever worked for, but I brought it in at all 3. And I can remember all the drafts people wanted all caps, and we said, we don't have to. We can
You don't
use
have to anymore.
normal. We now have an option. So anyway.
Okay, sorry, Sidebar.
I hope you only did that at the firms you worked at and just didn't just start going down the street to other businesses and be like, hey, you need to be using CAD. We publish magazines.
Oh boy.
Okay. I think we're back to.
Yeah, so whenever I export, I used to do it at 4x just because oh, hey, more detail equals better. But then with the launch umbilical tower, I had, reams and reams of PDFs in there, and they were taking up like 5.5 gigabytes. And the first time, Mr. B, I sent him a version to download, and he's like, this is taking me all day to download. Is there something wrong with your files? And I went and checked. I'm like, oh, that's why. It's 5 gigabytes worth of instructions. So I toned it down. I now use 2 as my default.
Would I consider looking reviews? Of course, sure. If you want to contact me separately or Joe or kind of as the 2 instruction people, of course, you'll get different comments from Joe and I because it's just we have different ways to look at it.
And see, here's so my wife is an editor. She's a professional editor, and in the few places she's worked, each place has had their own style guide. Correct. And so she will edit according to the style guide of the company she works for.
Yeah. And
there are a few standard style guides out there. Coming up with your own style guide is probably a pretty decent thing to do, and that's basically what Scott and I are doing.
Yeah, and I think like I put more bricks in a step than Lego would ever think of doing, and I'm not exactly sure why Lego. Because they do it even on the large sets that are targeted to adults, that they still will have. And if I need a 1-part step, I'll do it, but it has to be for a good reason, not just. Now, another time I do it, though, is if I'm on an 8.5 by 11 constraint and I've got 4 panels or 6 panels and I'm putting in a big part. I don't want to necessarily jerk around with the size of the parts, the part listing. So it might have to. The classic is every time I use a 16 by 16 plate. Because if you use a 16 by 16 plate and it's trying to put it into the preview window, it's like, okay, yeah, you need a plate and you're showing a plate. And it's like, kind of anyway, that's one. Sometimes I do post editing on that one because it's just semi ridiculous. But those are all things that you'll kind of get a feel for as you go through. But certainly, I think both of us would be willing in our spare time. Plus, Joe just doesn't sleep apparently, so we do need to distract him. Away from things like 3D printers.
Yeah, seriously.
Things that
or staying up with your 3.5-year-old because he had a nightmare last night.
Right.
If you leave Joe alone for 5 minutes with his laptop and studio, you'll come back and he'll realize that he's designed a whole nother element of spacecraft that he never even thought about, and he'll post it on Bricks in Space and sit there and go, I have a problem.
Yes, you do.
You guys think I'm kidding when I post something like, I accidentally designed Skylab.
Yes.
Because literally, that was an accident. And the whole time I'm going, oh no, what am I doing? Stop. No.
Okay. All right. I'm handing it back to you, Peter.
So Scott, okay. I was just going to mention briefly the new record for Lego steps pieces per step is 266. I just built one of the mosaics.
Oh,
So you build a panel at a time, and it's a new 16 by 16 Technic brick that they build it on. So you got 256 studs plus the plate and the
what's the
9
new
Technic pins.
that they put in?
Oh, I can show you. It's one of the new parts. Should type in 16 by 16 Technic and it should come up.
Oh, no way.
Oh, wow.
So that's the mosaics are built on a grid of these.
Are they expensive?
They're like $6 on Bricklink at the moment. They're available in the mosaics in black, and they are now available in the Coliseum, and in a different color. I think it's sand green.
Sand green.
Yeah, that's a fun color that no one uses.
Well, for ground.
I'm kidding.
I have to double check. I think that's what I remember seeing from the.
You know
Let's see
what's
if they
really
updated the
sad
color
is
library.
I did a large mosaic for the STEM Action Center here in Idaho, and I made one of those. Basically, it was it had a 16 by 16 plate, and then it had Technic around the sides.
Hey.
I wonder if we can get that on the Pick a Brick. Yeah.
Oh no.
That's
Oh
so
no, I
hard.
just redesigned the entire structure of my LUT looking at this. Nope, no, I didn't. Nope. Mm-mm.
So, okay. We want to go to video,
let's do
though,
video,
right?
please.
Animation. Okay. So our first section is under quality. And you basically can choose how many frames you want per second.
I'm sorry. Is this under this is under
one.
Render?
Animation. Should be quality at the top.
Okay. Okay. Frame rate.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm with you.
I got you. So if you want to be somewhat silly and do 1 frame per second, it'd be very slow to watch. 24 is the standard for cinema, which is my favorite. 30 is for video in the US. And oh wait, did I get that right? No, yeah, that's right.
And 60
then,
is for the worst version of The Hobbit.
Yes. And I'm surprised they don't have 25 in here for our European friends. But that's okay.
I never use 25. I'm always 24 or 30.
24 or 30? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess because no one really does television anymore, it doesn't really matter.
You just film it for cinema and then make it smaller.
Yeah. And then how long do you want your animation to last? I currently been doing some 20-second animations, but when I first got started, I would break these into chunks of 5 seconds. And needless to say, the more frames per second you have and the longer your duration of the animation is, the more processing power and longer it's going to take to make.
So remember that each frame is a full render.
Yes.
So basically, you're doing a photo image 24 for each second. So that's what floored me the first time I did this. So
we have.
And now I have an excuse to go buy a new computer.
Yeah. You need an excuse?
I would highly recommend building one. It will be far cheaper.
A desktop?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with Peter on that one. Just build it. It's so much easier.
Go to PC Part Picker. Minus my video card, I built my PC for $800.
Love
Wow.
Once you put the graphics card in, it's
Gets a bit more pricey.
$1,400 now. The most expensive thing on my computer now is the graphics card.
Hey, Peter.
Yeah.
That's how much I spent on that.
And how many videos can it make?
Ooh.
Oh, when I took it to Brick Slopes in Salt Lake, it made so many videos.
Yeah. That's
Oh, by the way, just real quick, Sebastian, I got your comment. I can't wait to see you build that thing. So,
So you have 2 animation effects to choose from. You should turn one of these on to do something useful. Because if you don't select anything, you're just going to have a still image for that duration.
Okay.
So the first one that people love using is the building sequence.
Now, is that the one that you do?
I actually do a mixture of these two.
Ooh.
So if we do a building sequence, it wants to do the steps of the sequence as either auto-generated. The studio's going to choose the sequence, and it usually does a pretty good job, or user-defined. I have yet to figure out how to use user-defined because it does not seem to follow the order that the parts are in the list that you place them or in the list of the steps. Still need to work that out and figure out what's wrong. But I usually keep it on auto-generated because it usually does a pretty good job.
I'll be doing that with the TARDIS later then. I know what my PC's doing all night.
Then you can click the brick falling down effect if you want the bricks to fall from the sky. Or if you have that unclicked, they just appear. So it's just depending on what kind of mood you're in / what kind of effect you want to give your video. If you want something falling and coming together or just something appearing out of nothing. Now, granted, you can probably imagine if you have a falling effect in, the bricks are in a different position for each frame and they're moving. So it has to do calculations and thus your render time is going to be longer. And this even becomes more complicated when you have transparent pieces where it's calculating light refraction. So if you really want to break the computer, take your whole entire LUT, make it transparent, make it revolve, and make it small, and you would probably break a computer.
8,600 pieces without the base.
Oh.
So, and this cool little slider here, you can decide for how long of the animation you want it to build and how much of the animation you want it to stay completed. So you might ask, why would you want to do that? Because wouldn't it be silly? This is basically from a filmmaking perspective, if you just keep your build sequence the whole entire length of your video, you're going to experience one frame of it fully completed, which is 1/24th of a second. And that's not enough to experience what you've just built. So I always recommend adding 5 seconds onto the end so the viewer can enjoy what they're seeing. Now, into addition to effects, and you can run these at the same time, is you can have the model revolving around an axis that you choose. And you can set the speed of how many seconds per turn and which direction it turns, clockwise or counterclockwise. Now, you can also decide where the center of this rotation is. If you click this button in the upper right, it'll guess where the center of your model is. And usually does a pretty good job. But once you start adding certain shapes, we all know when we build submodels, you can get some pretty weird geometric outlines of your shape, and it'll get confused on what an aesthetically pleasing center of your model is. So if you want to change the base of revolution, or the axis of revolution, excuse me, you can just move your model around, and you can do something ridiculous and have it rotate like that. And you still have all the same controls you had for when you were doing an image. So I'm just going to put it back here at the center. keep this at the lowest. I'm going to make this 1 second per turn. I'm going to do a quick render here.
Okay.
Last thing here is render quality. You can see I'm doing a custom. I only have 16 in. And it says medium quality is 128 samples, 256, or 512. Through experimentation, I find that samples of 16 is enough quality for me to be happy with. So that's how I can also speed up my render times a lot. But that's also, I changed the resolution to 4K down here. But for this example, we're going to keep it here and just see how fast we can do it. We have the same light settings as from photo and camera setup. And we can also do our material effects as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit render and see how long this takes to run in the background. See what our estimate is. It's actually doing it somewhat quickly. We're at 7%. And as you can see, so I don't have the bricks falling down. In fact, I must have unclicked that. So sections are just appearing. And since it's only a 2-second video, it is deciding very quickly. It's building much faster than you would see my normal videos. We should be done in about a minute. So I'm going to minimize this for now. One last thing we can do is instead of pressing render each time, we'll go back to photos. And when I export my photos, I always export them as a 8-bit PNG. You can do a 16 if you want. I don't feel it's necessary. But let's say you have a lot of workflow you want to get through. You don't want to wait for each render to finish. You can build a rendering queue. So down here, once you figure out what you want, you can press add to queue. And say we want to do another angle like this, add to queue. And then, I don't know, something like that. Now we go up here to the queue, and let me go ahead and clear. I just had a bunch of completed stuff. And here it's going to put it in the folder you've been working in. You can change where you want to put it, but we're going to just keep it where I've been working. And you can press render queue. And here and it'll just go through each one. And as it finishes, it'll move on to the next one. The biggest trade-off here, and I don't understand why, is the designers did not include an estimated time of completion when you're doing this render queue. So you just got to trust it blindly. And once again, that's why I always recommend doing the small preview video first before you do something high resolution that's going to take 12 hours to do, just so you're happy with it when it's done. And then you can also change the order of the queue if you want, but once something has started, you can stop it and move on to something else, but it'll lose its progress. Something I've been messing with here that I still don't quite understand is device occupation. I've switched it from high to low. I thought it would reallocate resources of my GPU, but every time I've done that, I can't see a significant difference on my GPU. And so I'm looking here under Task Manager. I have my GPU selected, and under one of these, I want to select the CUDA, because that's basically what's doing all the processing. So that video we're rendering right now it's using almost most of the CUDA cores for its processing. I can't switch it from high to low because we're doing that other render right now, so we can't really test it. But that video should be done in now. So we did a 2-second video, and it took about 2 minutes to render. And as you can see, the build was very quick because we did a 1-second build with 1-second rotations, and we just did the bricks appearing and not falling. So once you figure out, hey, I kind of like what this is looking like, but it's too fast. I like the lighting, but I want more control over it. You can go back and change your settings for your rendering. And the sweet spots for me, what I think looks great, and I think Scott will agree with the videos I did for him, is I like to do 5-second rotations because I think for most models, it's a nice, slow rotation. You can enjoy the aspects of the model while it's revolving. And then same thing, I like to do a 5-second build time. So at minimum, I like to do 10-second videos if I'm doing this combined effect. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to brick falling down. And I'm going to go ahead and render this in the background. And we can move on and do other stuff. When hopefully by the end of the show, we'll have a better video to look at. I still have it at the lower resolution just for now, but we'll look at it later. What else was I going to say?
Well, now I've decided that I'm going to do a fly around video of my Skylab build.
Yeah, you definitely should do that because
put it up on my Etsy site. Do my Etsy site, Sam.
Do it on 3.5. Do it on version 3.5.
Oh yes, I'll do it on version 3.5.
Because if you don't, that's just not good enough.
Yeah. On my Etsy site, Sam, etsy.com/Lego Joe Design.
You changed it.
No, it's the same. Is it?
Trying to find it. Oh, private.
There.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. All right.
I think it was Lego Joe.
Sorry.
Uh-oh.
So, and what I wanted to show here is you can see I didn't do a rotation while building here. And to accomplish that effect, it's just 2 videos merged together. So I first just did a 10-second build. And then I did another video of 5 seconds of just 5-second rotations. And then I just merged the videos together to get this effect. And then this is actual photographs here, but that's not important right now.
Interesting.
Anything else on animation, Scott?
I have a quick question.
Something was on sale at Fred Meyer the other day. I'm just saying.
How much was it?
It was 20% off.
Nice.
Have I showed you?
I actually have a second copy of it that I try to decide if I'm going to keep or try to sell to someone. And the problem is I bought it a week. So I pre-ordered it from Lego.com back in October. Or no, it would have been whatever.
Have I showed you Christmas at the Chambers house this year?
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Does anybody get
joke,
to
but
help
it was,
you, or you just build it?
It's the only set my wife was like, yes, I will absolutely build that. So that's waiting for December. Yeah. Now that you've taught me how to do renders better and do animations, I think the rest of my life is now spent.
Likewise, tomorrow, maybe not tomorrow because it might take a while, but there will definitely be a render coming of the TARDIS, and it's going to do bricks falling, and it's going to do spinning, and it's probably going to break my computer.
Oh, beautiful.
As
You do have access, though, to more than one computer.
and
Don't give the game
another
away.
thing I was going to offer is render time on my computer. Because I've done it for Scott already. So if you have larger models you want rendered, I can help you out. And I think I might end up trying to offer it as a service to people at some point.
I will let you know how this goes. and how badly this fails, if there is fire about 30 minutes after this show's finished, I'll be able to send you my IO file.
Okay.
Is Peter, is there a specific type of graphics card one would want for renderings such as this? Because my only experience with graphics card is gaming back in the day when I was cool and young.
I've always recommended anything by NVIDIA.
Okay.
Just because of the CUDA processing. Because the CUDA cores can do parallel processing. However, I don't know if Bricklink Studio takes advantage of that. I've just always been NVIDIA over, what's the other brand?
ATI. If they're still ATI now or whatever it is.
Is it? Because video cards are weird because
Yes, they
they're
are.
packaged by several different companies. You get an NVIDIA card, but it's not necessarily, it'll say NVIDIA on the box. Like my NVIDIA GeForce card I have in here is packaged by MSI, but it's it's an NVIDIA card.
NVIDIA makes the processor chip.
Yes.
And describes the architecture, and then second-hand companies make the board and the interface.
That's what I think is what's done. Yeah. I want to say Radeon's the other company, maybe.
Radeon.
Yeah, it used to be ATI Radeon was the name and brand of the graphics card, but whether ATI did get bought out by AMD.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking. AMD.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, they got bought out by AMD mid 2000s, I think, maybe late 2010.
So I'll be purely honest. I don't know which one's better for studio. I just speak on my experience of is upgrading from here. Let me go grab the box of the one I got.
Well, in that case, hey, does anybody want a 2-year-old Dell XPS touchscreen that I might be selling soon?
You good, thanks, mate. But I just want to let you know, after you showing off your Christmas at the Chambers household, I've received a message from Lady Sam who says, we're coming to
Hi,
you.
Lady Sam.
She wants to come build the Harry Potter castle.
So she's okay with the nickname, I take it.
I haven't been told.
Okay, let me see that.
I've been
I'll let
pointedly
you know,
not
Peter.
using it. So, Lady Sam, if you're watching, it's all done with love, right? It's all done with respect.
Because we have 3 recurring Sams on this show, there has to be some kind of
There has to be order and decorum.
There's decorum, yes.
Hey, at flight school, I was known as Terp because there were like 5 Joes.
So upgrading
Because I'm from Maryland, the Terrapins. Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
upgrading to this card has increased my workflow by at least a factor of 4. And I'm looking at another card to increase it by another factor of 4. That's $1,500. So
And then if it's a part of what you do every day, then you don't need to justify it to me. Go spend your.
I mean, if I didn't have those pesky student loans, I could acquire this card much quicker.
Just in relation to previous topics, Scott, yes, she is fine with it.
Okay.
And at work, she's known as Girl Sam. So
Oh, okay.
it's promotion.
Yeah, I'd rather be a lady.
Does she
Sam,
prefer
but-
Lady Sam over Girl Sam then?
Well, the way I look at it is she can be Lady Sam and I can be Lord Sam. You know, be lords and ladies. It works well.
Sam,
Very
that's
royal,
not
very-
going to happen.
It's
not
like,
gonna happen.
Man and wife. What? It's man and woman, husband and wife, lord and lady, right? I mean,
That's it. There you go.
guys and dolls, right? You have to have the right.
You know, Scott, Dolls hasn't been appropriate for a couple decades.
I'm a couple decades older than you, Joe.
Oh, okay.
Okay, back to the show.
Back to the show. We need to have our fun little breaks every once in a while.
That's right. I don't know. Maybe this is kind of a John Sullivan before the last show said converting Studio to Unity to import into a video game. Does anybody hazard a guess on that? What is Unity?
I do not know, but I know you can export 3D models and load them into Blender to do some computer animations. So I don't know if that would be along those same effects.
Okay. Unity, I knew this. Okay, sorry. Unity is a gaming engine. It's a gaming kit that you can create games with, and it has pre-rendered assets that you can use. You can make a video game in like a day using pre-rendered assets, and it'll look crappy, but it'll be a working video game. But it's a 3D environment that you can build.
So it must have some kind of format.
Yeah.
My suggestion would be to open the IO file in Blender if you need to use it as an intermediate to get a 3D model for Unity. That's how I would approach that. I will look into Unity and see what I can do. See if I can get any results.
Okay. We had a question from Ukraine. Again, I'm not going to murder the name. But how do you work with rubber or flexible parts?
Oh.
And I think this is a Peter question.
Get an adult beverage. About an hour of time per piece. Make sure you have a lot of patience at that moment, and then ask it very nicely to work. It is tough to use, but yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Peter.
So I was just trying to get this to work because I brought this model up only because I have flexible parts in it.
Right.
And for some reason it has failed. Actually, no, it's working fine now.
Okay.
Because I did it here. So we'll start with the easiest. Flex tubing seems to be the easiest to do. I always make one connection first, and in this model, we are making a loop on this 1x4 brick, which is just a simplification of the front of this train. So I'm just putting a 1x4 brick here for simplification. So once I have that placed, I like to place one edge before I flex anything. And we're going to click once on the element, and then we're going to click on the flex portion. And before I start bending it here, I'm going to grab it on this end, and I am going to rotate it in the proper direction. Not that way. Nope.
Ooh.
Ooh.
We are going to start over.
This is what I mean by like make sure you got a lot of patience that day.
So make sure you click on the end, and we're only going to rotate it so we're not bending it back on itself, and we're just going to slowly guide it to where we want. Click, and it is getting a collision, but we almost have that shape we want. So we're going to go back in and try to fix this up. And basically each one of these elements you're able to pull. And this is where it gets tedious. And I wish the physics was a little bit better.
Look at that.
So
now, why is it giving you a collision?
Because it's being stretched to a portion where it's not possible for the spine of this to do it.
So you've just got to get it at the right angle sort of thing and right stretch, and it'll go, oh yeah, no, it's okay now.
It went all funky. So
And then when you release it, it'll automatically try to go to
a resting
a better configuration. Yeah. And the reason why I say it's... Do you mind if I share my screen and show you something that I ended up having to do on one of mine?
Yeah, just in a moment.
Yeah.
Because I just want to go over the different types of flexing. But once you get it close, and I just want to stress this, like some people get really concerned when they see a collision there. Once you get a shape that you'd like, and you know in actual reality that it's not going to collide anything, just be happy with it.
Yeah. And just turn off collisions.
Right.
Turn off collision.
Because even if you don't have collisions and you have it turned off, this is still going to render a physical object here.
Yeah.
But if you want to see what it looks like here, we'll just turn off collisions. And if you're happy with that, that's fine. I did a much better. No one's ever going to believe me, but I did this in one try when I did this.
You know what they say, pictures or it didn't happen.
Well, I mean, here, there's no collisions, so.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to show you is there's another flex part here, and you're like, wow, you did a really good job of making these perfect. I'll show you what I did. Once I got one done that I liked, we came down here to copy and mirror, and I got that perfect symmetry.
Yes.
Done
that many a times.
But let's go back over here, and I'm going to delete this. And actually, I got a good model to show. We'll open up another one. So you can see my Bricklink Studio file. I have everything organized by mocks, and then official Lego sets get their own order. Folder, excuse me. So some of you may have seen I made some Star Trek brickheads a while ago.
Yes. Yeah. I love those.
Yes.
Q.
Another example of where I shot it at a good angle that I like it, but you can see here this chain is not obeying the laws of physics, mostly gravity.
Yeah.
I basically rendered at this angle knowing it wasn't going to be bad, because chains are not fun because they're even more worse. Let's go ahead and get a simulated brick here and chain. Grab a short chain.
I haven't even tried chains because I tried it once and I'm like, nope. Not good. Nope.
It's the same thing. I always pick a starting point, get that orientation down, and you can see why this was so difficult for me. Is not only do I have a bend in this direction, but I'm also bending down. So you can see that first link is in place. But always find what orientation your starting point needs to be in to make this as easy as possible. So let's say if this was going to loop around and touch here, we're not going to want to start like this because you're not going to have this first link going out this direction. You're just setting yourself up to have a bad time. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the same thing we did with the flex hose. We're going to go just grab this and we're going to rotate it. See, I rotated it a bad direction. We got all those kinks. So we want to be very careful when we're rotating that tip because I want to basically mirror what's going on there. So let me... Nope. So we're going to start with there, move it like that until we can get it into another position where we can rotate it more easily so we can get it. Nope, don't want to do that. So I'm going to hit escape before I escape, Control Z. There we go. So I usually save my progress to its different file before continuing
Yes.
and have different steps to go back to. And then we're going to do it one more time. And we should get something pretty nice. And voila. I've actually gotten a lot better at this since I did this. So I kind of want to redo this to make this one hang more. So it's just having the patience and trying to move, making smart movements and not adding impossible twists. If you, not to get in too much of a mathematical sense, but do not do don't make destructive transformations in your topology. Basically, don't make holes and don't strain and break material. Is the simplest.
How do you do? So I just came out with my shepherds, and I needed to use the flexible hose.
Okay.
The 3 mil hose, and it's not like that. It doesn't give you that infinite pull, and not that one. The it's 3 mil. What's its part number? 75C13. That kind of hose. And it doesn't seem to pull the same. Like if I want that end to be see how the end stays? I couldn't get it to curve. I wanted to just curve. Here, I'll just show you real quick, just so you know what.
Okay.
So here's the palm tree.
Mm-hmm.
And let me reset the origin. And it's kind of at a weird angle because of where it places. But do you see how that end?
I think I know what you want. If you come back to my screen, because I think I just did it.
I will, if I can get there. There.
So this was the same thing with the chain. It's hard to see, but you can select just the face of that tube and you can turn it.
And turn it. Can you get degrees so that you can, or would that be the XYZ?
I think, yeah, you can grab the hinge tool.
Yeah,
I thought good. I know you can grab the hinge tool on some of the flexible pieces.
How do you get I'm not getting that selection. Oh, I see.
It's really hidden in there.
Yeah, it's hard to.
How do you edit that? Yeah, where did you get that? Oh, it's somewhere deep. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yep.
Now I see it. Okay.
And then just use your D-pad to, I guess it'll do just 90-degree turns.
Yeah, darn it.
But knowing that, you should be, once you turn it in the direction you want it, you should be able to move each one of these, because you can't have a straight 90-degree turn like that. It's
no.
So what end does it connect on your model? What's the bottom connecting to?
It goes into a cone, and then the cone goes onto a base plate.
Like one of these?
Yep. So there's cones that go up the whole length. The rough bark of a.
So it's like that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what do you want the top to do again?
I want the thing to just kind of go, it's just like bending. right? Think of a palm tree. Be the palm.
Okay. So I think in this, let me get that 75C13.
Yeah, it's almost like the two ends have to be parallel, even though in reality they don't. You know, I mean, because it is trying to draw an isometric box to where the top and the bottom are parallel or 90 degrees.
Right. Let me think. How do we want to do this?
So this has got to be one of those.
Sometimes what I've done is actually place a part at at the end location.
Yeah,
and
that's
put it at the angle I want it, and then make it connect to that. So put that at the angle that you want it. Sometimes you really have to trick it into doing what you want it to do.
So let's put it in a position where we know this works.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, and then could you use the connect?
That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, someone needs to teach me how to do that connect tool because I don't get it.
How about that, Scott?
Ah, yes.
There we go.
Another aha.
You put it at the appropriate height, and you'll get that to flex properly. Good job. That was a nice team effort.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now I'll have to, and it, for me, it's more a rendering issue versus reality. In reality, it works fine.
Yeah.
It's just to get it to render.
That's what we want in our renders, is to reflect reality as best we can.
I've been using Connect a lot more. Let me.
I'm interested.
Well, if we don't have time right now, that's fine. I probably need to just play around with it.
Let me show you. Let me get rid of this. And no, I don't want to save it. Let's open up this one. Okay, the way I've been using it lately is, imagine that this is the full Saturn V, and
I can't. There's about 30,000 bricks missing.
right. So I'm just gonna really mess this one up. And I've had, well, now I've got, here, let's turn on a collision. We've had premature separation. Come on. There we go. Okay, this is where if you hit the connect, and then I'm going to zoom in on this, and you have to see how you hover over the part, and all of a sudden it's giving you, let me get a little farther in. It's giving you all the points that particular brick can connect to. So if you see the little squares, the top ones are the studs, the bottom ones are the tubes or the holes, right?
Right.
So in this case, I know that this particular part, I'm going to select that, right?
Okay.
So that becomes the first point. Always the one you want to move is the first one.
Okay.
If not, you'll figure it out pretty quickly.
Exactly.
Control Z.
Now I'm going to
No.
Here. And here, I selected the top point of that plate.
Okay.
That's clever. Like it.
Now let's do it again.
Oh man,
That would have saved me so much time.
that would have saved me so much time.
Yeah.
Okay,
Rather
so-
than sitting there going, WASD, moving up, left, right.
So
and
here's that one by one that I don't like to use except when I have to.
Right.
Zoom in on
Oh my-
this, and now I hover over it, and it's giving me the 4 points. Click it. It connects it. And sometimes it's like with these big sub-assemblies, I'm using Connect a lot. I import it, and of course I import it. The other thing I've been using a lot lately with the big model is select it, look at the XYZ component. And this is where I wish I knew, was it Mr. Bradford that thought this might be pixels?
Yeah.
Now in this case, the model isn't centered, but often I will purposely put everything at 0, 0, but it's like X, Z, Y. It's like, so the center
I've
one,
noticed that they'll do XZY in a lot of things.
it took a while for me to figure that out, but
Huh.
but it does allow you to. The other thing I've noticed is now if you select just that arrow,
Sorry.
it will only move it in that direction, which is nice. If you just want to move it versus, and again, we can do the stepping or, control arrow type things. Although control arrow can also lead you into, it's doing it in plate. It's doing it in brick and half brick, not plate. I wish it would do it in plate.
What do you mean by control arrow?
Well, I've got a shortcut for move.
Oh, okay.
So mine happens to be control arrow, which in this mode, it moves in Z. If I set it this way, it's going left and right. So, but what it did allow me to do is I bring in a big one, a large subassembly, and I'll look at the top. Like I noticed the top here is minus 587. So then I'll bring this thing in and that's the top. I'll bring this one in at 700, minus 700. Something that's way higher, then I can use Connect to bring it down and get it to the right spot. Because the rotation works fine. But I love this. There's only 3 parts in this, Scott. What are you talking about? But it's actually 904 parts.
Okay, so it's missing 33,000 bricks then.
33,000. Okay. All right.
Do we want to save part designer and minifig decals for part 3?
I'd say
Yeah.
yes at this
I'd
point.
say yeah. I mean, this is all so fascinating. I'm
learning so
so
much.
much fun learning stuff. And I just discovered something right now. If you hit shift and one of the arrows, it'll rotate by 45 degrees instead
Yeah.
of 90 degrees.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I just discovered that.
uh-huh.
And there it is, another aha moment.
Well,
Do we need to have like a aha bell, like ding?
We need the light bulb,
Yeah.
can I give a teaser for next time?
Sure. Yes.
Pop my screen back up here. I'm trying to make a Carmen Sandiego mock. I made a custom dual molded piece.
Nice.
Interesting.
So I can save that for next time on how I made a dual molded piece.
It's nice.
I'm looking forward to
Wait,
that.
wasn't her get up yellow, or am I thinking of the man in the yellow hat?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
The man in the yellow hat.
Yeah.
Or Waldo.
Waldo. No, Waldo is white and red striped.
Like our animation's going to finish in about another 10 minutes. Then
Your 10-second, yeah.
Mine's been going for 24 minutes, and it reckons it's been going at 37. I highly doubt that.
Mine's saying 9 hours.
yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, sounds about right. On the
I was
lowest
doing
settings.
just very small ones. And would you say yours took like 10 minutes on yours, and it was taking 9 hours on mine?
So I probably did 3 of those in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Again, that's why we all have computer envy.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay, well, we'll see how the.
One last thing.
Sure.
On computer envy, the other good thing about building your own PC is you don't have to buy it all at once. I spent a 3 to 4 month period acquiring all the parts, and it was less of a financial hit than going out and buying a brand new computer. So keep that in mind. You shop around for parts and get what you need.
Well, I'm probably going to look for like a liquid cooled or oil cooled. Just kidding.
Yeah, don't get oil cooled, mate.
Sam, you and I need to talk about the finish line, the camera PC, and the cooling fans. Its original design had a flaw that I corrected, but we need more fans.
You don't have to tell me that, mate. They really don't. I've been there in America when it's decided to go a bit too warm. I'll turn off.
It started to do it again in Sonoma, but I got the airflow fixed, and so you need a thermal engineer who understands the flow of heat. But anyway, so thanks for joining us. I guess we can, because he's just showing off. Thanks everybody for joining us. It sounds like this could be a reoccurring event, and we'll look to get more questions. Please keep asking questions. We will keep a record of them, and hopefully we can get a time in the future where we've got enough questions. And who knows? It'd be really neat if somebody from Bricklink, I'm just saying, that it might be programming this thing. Maybe you could come on the show. We would love to have somebody that is there. Plus, we promise not to beat you up too much because we do love the program. We just always have suggestions, improvements, right? It should be on the list. So anyway, thanks everybody. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. If so, please like this video. Please subscribe to the channel, and we'd love to see you again. So also, if you'd like to be on the show, send us a message and we'll consider having you as a guest. Hopefully I'll get a couple guests lined up. I'm guessing since next time would be the week before Thanksgiving. So we'll see about whether we'll have one next week or not. But we'll see you soon. So thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.